I want to invite the chiefs into the assembly so we can begin this afternoon's session. I want to say miigwech to the drum. And our next song we're going to ask the drum to do is going to be an honor song for the chiefs. It's in recognition of the resolution that you have worked together and have passed before we left to go for lunch. So we'd like to ask the honor song for the chiefs. So we'll ask the chiefs to stand, and all of the rest of us will, everybody else, Mudbin, except for you, Chief Peters. And Sarah, you should stand up too.
Hey!
Miigwech for that. So during the day when we got up this morning, everybody was happy to see another day and know that we had work to do. And there's this young man that walks around amongst us, and he had a little bit higher step to his gait around in his acknowledgement of the world today. So I'm going to ask our youth co-chair, Leon Goni, to stand up, and the drum is going to sing with all of us, happy birthday. It's his birthday today. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to acknowledge to the chiefs in assembly that we have requested from the drummers, and it's a request from Chief Yellowhead of Summer Beaver that we would do a healing song for Matthias Wabase. He's had surgery. His wife is here with him in the Hamilton Hospital. They've asked for a healing song and a blanket dance, so we're going to do that, and then we'll continue with our work. So perhaps I could have those young people help with the blanket. So we have presented the sama to the drummers. They just need a few minutes to have some biche, some water. Our young people are getting organized for a blanket dance. Okay, at the end of the day,
Okay, moving to the end.
yeah.
So around 3.
Yes.
Okay.
So we want to say miigwech to Ajbik for the healing song, to our young people for that blanket dance, and we give thanks to all that have given their thoughts and great prayers for the healing of our family and friends from Summer Beaver. Okay. Gordon Sarah's presentation this morning is going to be emailed to the chiefs so they can come to the office for the USB update, and don't remember, or please remember to register for this afternoon. And we are going to have, yesterday was National Child's Day, so I was wanting to make sure that we made recognition of that and know that in many communities they're at least in Wasoxing, they're having a Tiny Tots powwow today in recognition of National Child's Day. But also, our drummers are going to come back later and give us a father and son song. This afternoon's agenda, we're going to talk about the funding formula for the Chiefs of Ontario. I'm going to invite Grand Chief Joel Abrams to
Sagoli Sagwegi, Devas Legate Nyongats, Hotayoni, Navigate the Lodo, Onya da Aga, Namaga Honjoda, Onya da Aga, Hungi Hawene, no dignige, Klet Wagatsanuni, G Saguk, when he's lade. So I just want to let everyone know I'm very happy to see all your smiling faces today. And I'm from Oneida of the Thames, I'm from the Wolf Clan. And it's one of the social portfolios for Ontario's. Funding formulas, and we're actually going to have a resolution on that today. Hopefully, that'll get out some of the monies. And also, we'll be talking about the national child welfare legislation that's supposed to be upcoming really soon. As well as we had a request for some social, Ontario Works social services update. So I'll be giving that update as well. And assisting me later on is our legal for that is Maggie Wente. And so she'll be going over most of the legislative stuff as well. So, so it's very important, this area about child welfare. It's a big area that we all want to see a lot of change in, and not just change, but structural change in how we do things. And it's going to require a lot of work at the nation level. And what we're trying to do at the Social Services Coordination Unit and the Chiefs Committee on Social is hopefully set the table so you can do that important work back home, whether it's developing your own child welfare laws or designing your band rep system. And so a lot of those things we're going to hopefully be able to set in place so things will improve. As we know from the 60s scoop, and you know, a whole bunch of horrible things that have happened to our people, and it's had very negative consequences, and it's continuing to this day. So you know, we talked a little bit about this last year. We had a special assembly, and so we're still moving along, and we'll hopefully give you some good updates on where we're at today. So I think the first thing about a funding formula is going to be a pretty good panel discussion, hopefully. And I know it's not an easy thing. And what we're hoping to accomplish with the special study is to really come up with different models that you can kind of plug and play, I guess, you know, pick which one. And hopefully it's going to be needs-based. That's the main thing. Fixed pot funding is never good because it's not good for unity, because we end up kind of competing for dollars. It's, you know, because we're all really underfunded. We all know that. So I've always likened it to, you know, throwing a French fry in the middle of a bunch of seagulls. You know, they're going to scrap over it. and because they all have needs and they're hungry, right? So we have to kind of get away from those kind of things. And I'll have more to say on that later. But so I think we're going to get started with a panel discussion on that. There's a lot of different factors that go into funding formulas. So hopefully we'll hear some good discussion on that. And there's not just child welfare. There's band rep. There is, of course, some of the jurisdictional funds that work that has to take place that needs to be funded. Prevention focus is where we've decided that we want to go. And so if you can prevent kids from being in care in the first place, then I think that's a good place to go. So we're just kind of getting started on that track. And it's going to take some time. But as long as we keep going forward, then I think we'll be in a good place at the end of the day. So what we really want to do is to enable everybody to assert themselves, assert their jurisdiction, assert their sovereignty with respect to their children at the end of the day. And I think that's where we all want to be. So hopefully you'll hear some good stuff today. After the panel discussion, then I'll be getting more into my technical updates on the special study. And so I'll just leave it at that, I guess, and I guess we can move forward. So Daneto, Nyanda Hagin and Hogwanigo. Thank you.
Where's my presentation going up there? And how do I change it? Right there. Oh, okay. We're good.
Okay. We just want to welcome, is it Mike Sherry? Pat McDobby, Gary Beaver, and Linda Commanda. They're going to be doing the next agenda item. But we want to make sure that we said hello and bonjour and welcome to Saul. Saul here, he's the MPP for Kiwetin Nong. Is he here? All right. Welcome. Okay, Linda.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Yes, who's going to put it up on the screen? If we could have the PowerPoint up on the screen, please.
Mic's not on. Pull the mic over towards your mouth there.
To develop that formula. The Gaming Revenue Sharing Committee was established in 1996 and worked for 2 years developing formulas to distribute the gaming revenue to First Nations. In December, at a special Chiefs Assembly, 13 formulas were presented by the committee to the chiefs. The Formula Committee used the principles of equity and fairness in developing their formulas that they presented to the chiefs, but with all the work that they had done, none of those formulas were actually acceptable to the chiefs. The chiefs then rolled up their sleeves and got to work and used the remainder of the 3-day time to decide exactly what formula they were going to put in place to have these dollars distributed. In all, 18 formulas were discussed and debated by the chiefs. And after much discussion, debate, compromise, the 50-40-10 formula was agreed on. And just as a reminder, the 50-40-10 formula is 50% is the population factor, 40% is the base, and 10% is the remoteness. And then within that 10% remoteness, there's 7 strata that determines what area of remoteness you're in and what percentage of that 10% you get for the remote communities. So in the beginning, only 75% of the money was distributed, and 25% of it was set aside in what was called a future generation fund. The large First Nations at the time preferred the another formula that was developed by the government and used to develop funds for the, or to distribute funds for the Brighter Future program. And so as a compromise, would share in the interest from the Future Generation Fund to compensate for the difference between the two formulas. And that was to go on for a 1-year period. Then subsequent to that, at the AOCC in Wapple Island in 2001, that arrangement was extended for 1 additional year. Then at the AOCC in 2002 that was held in Fort Hope, the 50-40-10 formula was confirmed without the special arrangement for the Future Generation Fund. And the Future Generation Fund at that time was discontinued, and the accumulated money in the Future Generation Fund was distributed to all the First Nations under the revenue sharing formula. Now, to my knowledge, the 50-40-10 formula is the only formula that has been developed by and for First Nations. Formulas that were reviewed and rejected by the chiefs included many program-based formulas. And a chart showing those formulas is attached to the briefing note that you've already received. So I think now the decision is up to you, what you want to do with program-based funding, and if you want to develop your own Maiden First Nations formula to have those, to distribute those funds. If the decision is to create a program-based formula, then a group should be established that takes a look at those and have the appropriate technical expertise available for the group to work with. There's new transportation methods and what have you that all have to go into looking at the geographical challenges that would need to be looked at to create a level playing field for those program dollars. And program dollars are one cost, but the cost of delivering the service is a separate issue that needs to be looked at. So when you look at the challenges, the same thing is going to happen as happened with the development of the OFNLP formula. Not one formula will address all of the concerns that all of the First Nations have. And new formula development is a difficult and arduous process. And the chiefs that are in the room that were there in 1998 understand full well what I mean when I say an arduous process. Formula development requires patience and a willingness to discuss, debate, and compromise. And without these qualities, it's very unlikely that you're not going to be able to put a new formula in place. And more than one formula may have to be developed depending on the program outcomes. And then you also have to consider how will new bands or near bands be dealt with in the term of the program funding. Under the OFNLP formula, near bands get base funding, but they don't get population funding. There's no population factor for the near bands. So those are the comments that I have to make. We're fortunate enough to have also on the panel with me is Pat Madabi, who chaired that 1998 assembly. We also have Gary Beveridge, not Beaver, Beveridge, who worked with in the development of all of the formulas. So I'll turn it over to Patrick.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, I was drew the short straw or something, but I had the privilege of chairing that quite arduous discussion. And as I was mentioned in the presentation by Linda here, we went through 18 formulas in the course of those 3 days. It was one of those situations that I have never seen probably before or since, where the chiefs had to buckle down and really debate. And it got to the point where it was becoming almost difficult to reach a consensus because, you know, wordsmithing was happening. People were taking, you know, very solid positions based on their own, you know, particular needs and interests of their area. And, you know, getting to the discussion of what is the most fair and equitable way took a lot of, you know, I took some liberties as the chair, going totally out of character and got really pushy at that forum, and there'd be a conversation going on with chiefs over here, there'd be another conversation going on with chiefs over there, and they were basically very close on their positions, but were still arguing with each other about, you know, whose position was better. And, you know, it got down to the point where I said, you know, would you chiefs go over and talk to those chiefs and we'll, you know, try to sort out, you know, you're very close on the discussion. And that's what it boiled down to, you know, to finally reach a consensus is that, you know, there was many, you know, little meetings going on within the meeting, you know, people trying to solidify positions. But at the end of the day, it really took a supreme effort by the chiefs to come to this. And, you know, as was pointed out, 2 years of work by the technical group, you know, didn't fly at all right from the get-go of that meeting. And 5 new major formula discussions were created beyond the original 13. And, you know, I have to say, you know, going forward, I think it's going to take another monumental effort because, you know, I have to be very frank. There is no perfect formula that is going to make everyone happy. That's just the reality. There are so many variables. You know, there's the geographical challenges. There's the close proximity to urban centers. There's, you know, some communities are really large. Some communities are really small. There's everything in between. You know, how do you adjust things that sometimes even communities in close proximity are totally different in their needs and their ideas of how they want to develop their communities. So, you know, in some respects, I think, you know, part of that one recommendation was that maybe, you know, an independent economist that doesn't have, you know, a particular interest of a region or anything at stake, looks at all the various formulas out there and looks to see what is the most equitable and fair. Now, I think on some things as well, you know, you have to really be very pragmatic and have a real reality check to say that, you know, there are extra costs for doing things in the north that should be supported, you know, but, you know, diabetes in Paganjigam and diabetes in Chippewa-Thames is still diabetes. But the cost of providing, you know, the doctors, the dentist care or doctor's care is a lot more. The transportation costs are a lot more. And, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, I've been kind of trying to take a look at, I've been hearing about how Norway, Sweden, parts of northern Russia, And even now there's a discussion going on in Northwest Territories about looking at different transportation ways to deliver transportation. And they're talking about using Airbuses that charge about $1.50 per ton per kilometer versus about $10 per ton per kilometer that you're paying now for the trucking on the ice roads and stuff like that. It's a significant saving, probably up to 50% of savings. And, we should be lobbying because the government subsidizes, the far north in parts of Quebec and other areas, to assist with those, geographical challenges. And there's geographical challenges in different parts of the province as well. So we're really saying, I think we have to really be real here and take a look at, different ways of doing business. And at the end of the day, I think everybody is going to have to do a little bit of give and take because there is no one magic perfect formula. There's just so many variances among the First Nations, and when you get down to it, there's need in every First Nations because, as Grand Chief Abrams said, we're under-resourced already. And you all know the story that even in the national scene, when we should be getting about 24% of the budget nationally, we're getting about 8 to 12%. So that's a big problem right there. So I guess my commentary is that, as you're deciding what you're going to do about this, I think if we're going to, get bogged down with everybody fighting for their own individual regional interests and everything, it'll be very hard to come to, some fair and equitable formula because there is no perfect formula. So I think we have to just strive to take a look and perhaps use an independent economist to analyze all the various formulas and methodologies out there, and then also assess, extra costs that are incurred for geographical challenges, that are here in the province. So anyway, with that, I'll turn it over to Gary.
Thanks, Pat. I'll just be brief. My involvement back in 1998 is 1997, the Chiefs of Ontario chose KPMG to provide some assistance, and I was the person from KPMG who took on the leadership of that. I took a team from KPMG to the conference in 1998, an amazing team to work with the Chiefs. And my job was to go around to all the caucuses and listen to what was going on, watching Pat do his magic getting people together. And he did push people together at times, and it worked. Because I went around to hear what everybody was saying so that when the team from KPMG at the time was putting together the various formulas, they heard the message properly. So we made sure that was done. The other thing that was done, which was quite interesting, and I do have things here from that time, was doing some sensitivity. So when you look at a fair and equitable formula, and you look at it, you want to see what's the sensitivity based on this formula compared to that. So that went on and was distributed to the chiefs and at the caucuses so they could see what the differences were based on the numbers. And I think that helped with the decision as it came down the line. The formula that was developed has had a few tweaks over the years, not changing the basic formula, but some money was taken out. As Linda said at the beginning, the Future Generation Fund put back in. There was some money taken out for possible investment. That was put back in. But once you had the formula, it seemed to work quite well in the distribution. The other thing, as Linda pointed out, this is a First Nation formula. This was created by the chiefs at that conference. And from that, OFNLP 2008 is there today, which is a First Nation.
On behalf of the panel, thank you very much.
Solve that problem.
there any comments or questions from the panel, for the panel? All right, I'm going to invite Joel back. Joel's going to come up and do the next section in terms of the special needs study, the National Child Wellbeing Strategy, social services updates. Joel? While Joel's coming up here, our blanket dance, we've collected for the family $1,438. Thank you very much for your kindness and generosity. There's an invite for a technical working meeting for the regional strategy for a truly collaborative process between the Ontario region and the Crown, and that's between 7 and 9 tonight in the Aurora room. Joel.
Okay. Before I talk about a special study, I'd like to request that we go in camera for this portion. Does there have to be a mover, or do we just do it, or I don't know?
So in camera.
Yeah.
So in camera means that you don't want no webcast either?
Right.
So no webcast. I'm sorry, ladies, I'm doing this to you all the time, but no webcast. If you're from government or from the media,